senior defensive tackle out of Evangel High School and committed to Texas A&M, Gabe Relaford, has scheduled his official visit to LSU. He's got plans to sign during the early signing period in December. He's a four-star prospect with just a few weekends remaining before he has to make his decision, and the NCAA dead period is going to kick in. Obviously, Relaford is a top target. Some people have said that Relaford is at the top of LSU's local board, in-state board of guys that they want right now. He is locked in his official visit, telling the staff at On 3 that he's going to be in Baton Rouge beginning Friday, December 1st, so he'll be here tomorrow, and he will stay a couple of days in Baton Rouge, which will give LSU staff the opportunity to spend. Look, this is what they've been wanting. They've been wanting to spend just isolated time with Relaford. He'll be on an official visit, so he'll see the entire campus. They'll take him through school. They'll take him through whatever school he wants to focus on within his studies. Obviously, he will have discussions in-house on what the plan is. The plan for him is as far as playing time, as far as development, as far as how they use him within LSU's defense. So this is an enormous weekend as far as recruiting is concerned, and really the big reason why we were pretty steadfast that LSU was going to be in the news wire, following the A&M game, because they had things like this to take care of. You got guys like Gabe Relaford going to be on campus on official visits looking for messages of, what's next? What's next for the LSU defense? Do you stay status quo? Do you have change? What's going to happen? And this weekend is a great example of that. But really, they may have the plan in place. They obviously have the plan in place, and will make that known to Relaford beginning tomorrow. So he'll be in town Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and leave Sunday afternoon this week. As that is a big player for LSU as far as the class is concerned. A huge area and position of need for LSU, and one that they have to clear up. Shone Washington earlier this week pledging and committing to LSU's class is and could be not just literally, but really and truly the biggest get out of all of them. I know Keelan Moses is set to announce tonight, and that'll be a future recruit. But when you're talking about the immediate help on this team, we've talked so much about defensive back. As dire is the defensive line, right? I mean, with what is coming and going, with what is the question of who's going to be there, who's returning, all of what goes into that defensive line, you have got to start getting guys out of high school and developing them into 3, 4 year, 5 year players for you in the program, so you can have some consistency and really have some start to build some consistency in recruiting of who you are. I mean, it just you can't keep going into the portal and throwing Hail Marys like LSU's been doing at defensive back the past couple of years. And from a personnel standpoint, if they don't hit on a couple of these guys in high school that they've missed on, they're going to be in a similar situation from a defensive line and defensive tackle standpoint here pretty quick. So Relaford's huge, man. He's big as far as this recruiting class and really the overall feel of this cycle goes, because of just the desperation for them. The desperation for that position.
And the more you see how the transfer portal is becoming relevant and more relevant across the country, it doesn't feel, I don't know if it feels like it's more dire or less dire because of how many people are using it, that LSU is kind of at, I guess you could say, the forefront of using the portal. I don't know if that helps or hurts you. It certainly helped in baseball, where players knew that they could get into the portal and LSU was a viable option. But for LSU, it doesn't feel like, we say it's not sustainable, but it's growing every year, where there's players, and now it's becoming another de facto pay to play. And I just don't know if it's not something that's, you'd want it to be less and less than what it is, but it feels like it's just getting bigger and bigger every year, to where you can go scoop out talent. It's just a matter of almost like recruiting. You got to hit. And LSU, for all intents and purposes, won the offseason when you get Denver Harris and Deuce Chestnut, but that's where you have to align fit with need at your program.
Yeah, and right now they've got a huge need for defensive tackles, right? I mean, I am on the record in saying I believe that Wingo, I think he goes.
I'd take Mingo too.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, Mekhi Wingo is a guy that I believe is hit the ceiling in college football, and here at LSU, he's got some size limitations that are obviously going to be on the headline of his draft report. But when you turn on his film,
it plays.
He's done everything that LSU's asked him to do, every position that he's played, every scheme that he's played, and he's shined. Right? I mean, if he came back for another year, I don't know what he would add any value to himself for. You've really kind of you've shown everything, and you've been very successful. And I just don't know how much more that can improve. From Mason Smith's standpoint, I think Smith is sitting in a spot that, you talk about examples that LSU has had, a couple of times along the way, but he's a guy that right now is probably somewhere from a third, fourth round projected pick because of his size, his ability, and could play himself into a first round selection, coming back on a full healthy schedule, playing already in shape going into the year, and having the opportunity to be the headline defender not only for LSU but maybe in the league if he was able to come back and produce for his senior season. So, I think it would make a lot of sense for Mason Smith, a guy like him, to come back. And, obviously they're recruiting on Wingo. It would surprise me if he came back. I mean, it would just, I think that there is, I don't know how much more value he can add to his stock than what he's already done.
I think that question's almost twofold, right? Where if you bring back Philip Lindsay and have him, you actually have a defensive line coach. I feel like Wingo was probably your best player regardless of who the coach was, but if you come back and have an established defensive line coach, you could probably see him put out better tape if that's what he wants to do. Like I said, you saw him practicing at the LSU field. I don't know if that was for scouts or if it was for LSU, but you can't put a price on having an actual position coach. Same thing for Mason Smith, where he was running the defensive line drills for up until, week 4 of the year? So if you have a full year of having because how early did Lindsey go out? That was in spring?
I mean, he
fall.
Left the night before camp started was when it happened.
So they didn't have a coach. And, I mean, they were doing double duty, obviously, but to have a position-specific coach that can help you play, and Wingo, like you said, I feel like he's maxed out what he's done, but if he can come back and be another force on the defensive line, that can only help you, because what do you say, 3rd to 5th round for him as well?
I would think. I mean, I'm not good at that.
But he's an all-SEC player. It's already been announced. Like, it was proven before the year. So if he comes back, and I think a little bit for him is out of sight, out of mind, where he was gone the last 5 weeks of the year. You didn't see him, so what are you getting? It might be, I don't know if he had the surgery to get healthy for the NFL or if he had the surgery like, I'm going to come back to LSU and prove that I should be drafted earlier. I just don't know what his ceiling is either, because what you see, the production is there. But when it comes to draft time, it becomes measurable. That's why Mason Smith has a decision to make.
Thanks for tuning in to our premium LSU content right here on YouTube. If you want more of it, subscribe below.